Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your home for second round advice. Gabriel Miramontes here with Jacob Bartley, Justin Morsaz. Gentlemen, happy pre-Halloween. This is our annual, we spent 5 minutes on a Halloween trick-or-treat segment, and then that's it, and we move on. But it still is our second annual trick-or-treat episode. How you guys doing today?
I'm good. Excited for
Justin
Thursday
just
night
got
football.
the news. He's moving to Idaho. What?
Yeah, temporary. I wouldn't call it a full move, but it's a move nonetheless, right?
It's a move in the right direction, and we will grant that permission. Jacob's the boss here, so he allows you to do so, and he says that he's still going to be on the podcast.
Well, it won't change anything for us. Maybe Justin might miss a few episodes, and his background will look different. But other than that, it won't change much for us.
Hopefully, the background will look different for the better, man. I'm tired of looking at that door. I always feel like someone's going to walk in and like serial murder you on the screen, and then we're just going to have this like weird moment in our heads.
Live on the podcast.
I got some stuff when I get my man cave set up somewhere someday. It's going to be better than this.
That's good, man. I can't wait to see it. I've always dreamed of a man cave, and that has fortunately not happened for me yet.
Soon.
Anyway,
I'm working on it.
Wait, what'd you say, Jacob? You're working on it?
I said I'm working on it. I finally have a spare bedroom in my home, so this is just the start, but I'm working on it.
You guys are further along than I am, but we're all on the long road called life, and we all love fantasy football, so let's get back to it. If you haven't already, follow us anywhere you get your podcasts. You're just about anywhere, so search us up wherever you listen. If you're here on YouTube today, hey, how you doing? Like and subscribe. You're guaranteed to almost win your fantasy matchup next week. I promise you. Almost guaranteed. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at First Round Fantasy. You can also find Jacob at Jacob FRF Sports and me, Gabe FRF Sports. Justin, he's on Instagram at least. That's good.
Pigeon.
Pigeon. I guess we're plugging that now. Really quick before we get started, I do want to give a quick shout out to the Fantasy Fan Line. All three of us are most likely going, pending Justin, going to make an appearance on the Fantasy Fan Line podcast. That is this Saturday at 11 a.m. It's the only call-in show where you get expert analysis. Somehow we faked our way into being experts, guys, but we're not going to tell them that. And we get to come in there, hang out. It's usually about an hour, and it's a good time. So call on in if you're interested. We'll try to put the link down below, but I'm not going to put that pressure on you, Jacob. I got to find the information first. With that being said, gentlemen, it is Halloween time. It is upon us, which is also the time of the year where we have enough data and analysis to look back at the first 7 weeks of our season and think to ourselves, gentlemen, who has been a treat for you thus far in the 2021 NFL season? Jacob, I see you shaking your head. I'm honestly dabbling between two players in my head right now at this very moment. So I'm really hoping one of you will go first. Justin, are you ready to take that shot? Who's been a treat for you so far this fantasy season?
I have a feeling both of you want to say this, but since I have him and I love him and I'm surprised, I got to go Ja'Marr Chase. It's just it is the steal of the draft. It's such a treat to have him. I mean, you think he's going to stop blowing up. You think that 30-point game is a random game, and then the dude just gets touchdowns after touchdowns. And I couldn't be more happy for busting on a couple players. A-Rob, this guy's been great, so I'm happy to have him.
He is literally breaking NFL records, not NFL rookie records, NFL records. So the guy is a beast. And Justin, let me ask you, I know you grabbed him up in our redraft league, but how do you feel taking Kyle Pitts one spot ahead of him in our dynasty draft? Because I was going to take Pitts, and I sure the wide receiver guru himself was going to take Ja'Marr Chase, and you ended up going with Pitts. Do you regret that decision?
I don't regret it at all. I mean, I love them. I love to have them both, but given my team, I wasn't winning, and if I could fill a tight end with a generational talent, I want to do that because wide receivers, there are a lot of them. But Ja'Marr Chase, I was going to bring this up. I love Justin Jefferson. What he did last year was nuts, but Chase is like breaking those records. So I want him on my team, but Pitts last week was an awesome showing for Pitts. The last 2 weeks for him, so I think it's uphill for him. So I'm not mad. It could go both ways, but I'm not mad.
definitely some bright young talent out
And
there.
I believe Chase fell to like the 6th pick in that rookie draft.
I don't know.
He did.
He didn't go 4. He didn't go
He-
4.
No, I believe I had
Pitts went 4. Somebody else went 5th.
I took him at 5.
It
I
was
took him
late.
at 5.
Oh, okay. Still, 5's too late.
But yeah, definitely some young talent out there. Jacob, what about you? You got a treat. You got a player who's been a treat so far this season.
I got a nice, tasty treat for you guys.
That
And
sounded
if
weird.
this
I feel
is
creeped out. I feel
if
gross
this
now.
gives you any hint here, you
Oh,
might know
let's
where
hear
I'm
it.
leaning. And that is my boy Deebo Samuel. Let me tell you a quick little story. We're in this pick 6 keeper league, and my running backs are super stacked, and I drafted Najee Harris. So like I'm good, right? Comes to like the 4th round of our draft, which is like the 10th round if you count our 6 keepers. I need a wide receiver. I only have Terry McLaurin. That's it. Only. And I'm like, okay, who's left? I take Deebo Samuel. And I'm like, okay, he's my boy. He's on the Niners. I know he's good. We don't know if it's going to be Trey Lance or Jimmy. And I'm like, I feel pretty good about him going into the season. And look what he's doing. He's absolutely killing it. I know Justin has him a couple stocks of him, or at least one stock of Deebo Samuel in one of our leagues. He literally might have saved me. I'm in 2nd place in that league. He might have saved me in that for that league specifically. So I'm loving Deebo Samuel this year, especially Lil Cherry on top. He's on the Niners.
That was my 2nd pick. He was literally neck and neck with Chase. I love it. I love Deebo.
You know, if we're gonna go a little bit biased like Jacob did, but rightly so, Deebo is absolutely balling. I think he's like what, number 3 on the year right now. He's absolutely
depending on scoring. Yeah, he's up there.
He's top
doing
5
incredible.
for sure.
I'm gonna take a little bit of a different approach. I'm also gonna be biased. This doesn't have too much to do with fantasy because this guy technically is a streaming option, but he certainly isn't playing like it right now, and that is Derek Carr, quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. 4 of his first 6 games, he has provided you with 30-plus fantasy points. He did have 1 dud, but that other game, right around 20 fantasy points. So he's been great. He's currently the 2nd player in the league right now when it comes to passing yards. And I look to him to just keep on I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. I look to see him to keep piling it on. There you go, guys. Proper grammar.
I don't know.
And the schedule just makes it a hell of a lot better. He's got a really good schedule down the stretch. I hope he keeps it up. He's been certainly a treat to watch this season as a Raiders fan. And if you have him as a fantasy player, you're pretty happy yourself as well. So that is my treat of the 2021 season. And gentlemen, I think we got 3 good ones.
I'm not hating on yours, man. He helped me win the matchup last week. And so much so, I lost Russell Wilson in this league. So much so that Derek Carr's on a bye. I'm not willing to drop him. I'm picking up a streamer this week, and I'm keeping Carr and continuing with Carr after this week. So that's a good one.
Yep. Love the Raiders winning.
After his bye, New York, Kansas City, Cincinnati, they have a tough defense.
His
but
schedule
then Dallas,
is insanely
Washington,
good.
Kansas City, Cleveland, and the championship
good.
week, Indy, all bottom 5 teams, or at least bottom 5 to 10 in terms of giving up points to the fantasy QB. So he's definitely a hold for me as well. Let's get a little scary now, folks. Let's switch gears. We're talking about the players that are been such a treat to us. Now, let's talk about the players who have done nothing but trick us with deception, deceit, and downright, naughtiness. Who is the player that you have been tricked by so far this season? And I'll leave it up to either one of you.
Go ahead, Justin.
I have a couple in mind. I don't want to – there's easy guys out there. I don't want to go easy. I want to go someone who's just a pain in my ass, pain in my side, and that's James Conner. It's like, why do you want to ruin Chase Edmonds' limelight? Why do you always get the vultures? Why do you get 20 carries to his 4 sometimes? It makes me sick because – he's a highlighted back, obviously. Chase Edmonds is more versatile, but it's just what the NFL does. And look at the touchdown disparity between both of them. I wish I can just merge that into one running back and we can have another top dog. But at this point, you're like, who do I start? I don't know who's going to get a touchdown, or is Chase Edmonds going to get 7 catches? I don't know. So it's like, because he got signed there, He ruined both their values, and it just bothers me because I was really hoping Chase Edmonds would light the league up, but he's just being held back on not getting any goal line work.
Fair enough. Yeah, James Conner, definitely a thorn in people's side. But we kind of knew that going into the season, but just to kind of see it too through fruition is just even more aggravating. So I completely feel for you. I am a Chase Edmonds owner
Yes,
myself.
you both are Chase Edmonds owners, and I feel like this is more to do with how it's affecting Chase Edmonds too.
Exactly.
Yeah, dude, he has 6 touchdowns. Give 3 of those to Edmonds, and we wouldn't have a problem. But he doesn't get any of them. He literally doesn't get any goal line work, and it's just annoying. But I have hopes. He's getting healthy. Second half of the year, big time for Chase.
Very true. Very true.
Just want to shout out real quick. We got a first-time viewer, Jeremy Kravats. I actually work with this guy, and he is a huge Jets fan. He has a Jets podcast. Why don't you put that in the chat? I don't have the name of your podcast at the top of my head, but put it in the chat and we'll get a shout out. Thanks for stopping by, Jeremy. Yeah, Gabe, he's actually the vice principal at the school that I work at.
Was this the Elijah Moore jersey?
Yeah, he was wearing an Elijah Moore jersey on
diehard.
It was like rep your favorite team day at school, and I was like, is that an Elijah Moore jersey? And that's how we got started talking. So that's cool. Thanks for stopping by.
Hopefully Elijah Moore picks it up, and hopefully he has a better season. I'm sorry about Zach Wilson.
He's the guest on. He's the co-host of Frankie from Flatbush, and Frankie is another big Jets fan that he does the podcast with. So go check it out if you're a Jets fan. Frankie from Flatbush.
Frankie from Flatbush. That's an interesting name, but you know what? It keeps me entertained. So I will definitely go check it out, and you should too if you're listening today. We are on at 5:00 on Fridays and 4 on Sundays. Thanks for that, Jeremy. We appreciate it, man. I'm going to look forward to checking it out. Jacob, before we move on, though, who is your treat? I mean, your trick.
No, my trick. And I took this word literally because this man and this team in this situation tricked me. And the reason why I feel so strongly about it is because my reputation, you can say, as like a fantasy analyst is on the line with this guy, and that is Sam Darnold. And the reason why he is a trick for me is because when Sam Darnold was traded, and Justin got burned by Sam Darnold last week, when Sam Darnold got traded to the Panthers, I tweeted out that I think he's going to light it up on the Panthers, and he's going to be like a borderline top 12 fantasy quarterback. Through week 4, and this is one of our leagues where the scoring, we have a few bonuses, but he was putting up 26, 27, 30, 40. Through week 4, he was a top 5 fantasy quarterback. And how am I feeling? I was right. Of course, I was right. And then suddenly, the past 3 weeks, he's getting benched in favor of his backup. So that is my disappointment. My trick so far is Sam Darnold because they tricked me.
What are you going to do, friend? What are you going to do? You know what? There was so much talk and debate on this particular podcast about Sam Darnold and the possibilities of him escaping Adam Gase. Guess what? The first 3 weeks of the season, Panthers go 3-0. You're thinking to yourself, holy cow, Sam Darnold is taking off. Well, in reality, he really wasn't doing much through the air. He was doing a lot with his legs. He's been virtually non-existent on the rushing ground since then. And he can't do it with his arm, and it's more apparent now than ever. I've just heard, though, yes, Adam Schefter reporting, myself, that the Panthers are not in the discussion to require Deshaun Watson. So it looks like, at least for now, he is going to be the starter there throughout the rest of the year. I don't know if that's necessarily good for people like DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and newly acquired Terrence Marshall Jr., but we'll have to wait and see. But it hasn't been good so far. You've been tricked. Good choice, Jacob. I'll make mine quick. I'll make mine very quick. Sorry, Jacob. I'm going back to San Francisco. And again, a little bit more biased because we're talking about our personal players.
I don't blame you.
I didn't necessarily go 0 RB in one of our redraft leagues that we all play in together, but I did find myself taking Trey Sermon, and I thought, wow, this is such a good deal in the 6th round. Oh. And he, by far, is the worst pick. I have since shipped him off, and it is something I don't really regret because even
I hope to the waiver wire.
No, I shipped them in a trade to Gio, and I feel
Oh,
good about it.
wow.
What's up, Gio? You're probably listening. Anyways, yeah, that's a headache all on itself. And San Francisco just hasn't been themselves lately. So I hope they do figure it out. Fantasy football and football in general is good when the San Francisco 49ers are good. So Jacob, I'm not dogging on your team here.
No,
I'm just saying I hope they figure it out because the running situation, the passing situation, you can really just trust Debo over there right now.
You're actually being too kind, Gabe. Do we have time for me to talk about the 49ers and Trey Sermon?
I will give you 1 minute.
No, we already know this. I've talked about it way too much. I'm just like, honestly, he should be dropped in every league. Like, and I haven't dropped him. I can't drop him because I've spent such a high draft capital on him. But I wouldn't blame anybody if he hit the waiver wire. Like, he's useless.
Sunken cost fallacy, man.
In fantasy.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Justin. Well, there you have it, folks. Our tricks and treats of the 2021 season. Let's get into the real stuff now. We are going to spend a little bit of time here talking about trade targets. Then we're going to take you into some major injury news. Most importantly, Devontae Adams. Then we're going to go touch on the waiver wire really quick. And then, of course, as always, get into our famous dark horses and fool's gold players of the weeks. Let's get back up to the top. Trade targets. I'm going to stay out of this. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I see that you and Jacob, Justin, both have one. So let's hear from you first, Justin. Who is a guy that you are looking to buy right now? A couple of these leagues, most leagues, your trade deadline is in 2 weeks. So it's coming up really quick. What do you got for us, Justin?
I think if I'm going to go wide receiver, my number one trade target for what you're going to get and what you have to give up got to be someone like Amari Cooper. Did they have their bye or they're coming up on their bye?
They already had their bye. They're part
They
of the
just had it. It was this past week. Yep.
Exactly.
So that's even better.
So the tactics we've always spoke about the shows is like when we come through the buys, the points skew the rankings. So right now, Amari's pretty far out there. Guys like Cortland Sutton, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Waddle, all those type of guys are ahead of him in the rankings in PPR. I would definitely ship some of those guys off for someone like Amari. If you want to bolster up your flex spot or maybe you need a wide receiver too, that would be my perfect target. Dallas is the highest scoring offense in the league. It's him and CeeDee Lamb pretty much. So pretty much I want to trade for him. If I can package 2 for 1, that's ideal. That's my wide receiver pick.
You can't disregard that, especially when you have Dak throwing the ball. CeeDee Lamb has been the primary beneficiary so far this season, but definitely it is a long season, and Cooper definitely has the talent to not stay hidden for very long. That's a great choice, Justin. Do you have one at the running back position?
I do. Similar position for their team and what he produces. Darrell Henderson. I like him because he's pretty much the back that you can trust back there. When he missed a little bit of time, Sony did something, but nothing crazy. But he gets all the carries. He gets the goal line work 99% of the time. He's got Houston coming up. They haven't gone on their bye, but their schedule is pretty generous. So I want that offense and I want that running back. I would definitely trade I would even consider trading down to get him. Like say I had an Aaron Jones, a sporadic offense, I would trade for Darrell Henderson plus a wide receiver I can trust if I was getting rid of someone like Aaron Jones. But if you can trade up, I always prefer that too.
I like that you mentioned that. He's been very consistent. Every single game he's played, he's gotten you more than 15 fantasy points. I'll touch on Sony Michel. The one game where he didn't really do much, well, it was because they were playing Tampa Bay, and only Herbert from the Bears has been someone to crack them for 100 yards so far this year. So that was a tough matchup. But Darrell Henderson, that's a perfect trade target. Unfortunately, because he is so consistent, and as a Henderson owner, I hope he stays healthy. But that window may be closing very quickly. So if you're going to make a move, you need to make a move quick because he has been great so far. And as I look at his numbers, he actually didn't do that great against Detroit, but that was a Matthew Stafford revenge game. So he probably wasn't going to get the ball that much. But 2 good trade targets from Justin. Jacob, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I have 2 guys that I would definitely try to, if you try to approach a fantasy manager with these guys, they might be like, wait a minute, why do you want them? But what Justin and I have talked about in the past is kind of do trades with multiple players. And you kind of disguise these guys in other trades. And the first one for me, and I think these two guys are on an upward trajectory just for this season, and they can help you win this year. And one of them is Rashad Bateman. I know, like, he came back, he had 6 targets. I think he had 4 catches. And then last week he had, I believe, 3 catches for 80 yards. One really big play. I just think that as the season goes on, he's going to start getting more comfortable with Lamar Jackson and vice versa. So I think that this guy, and I've been talking about him, we talked about, I mentioned how Odell Beckham Jr. was out for the first 5 weeks of the season when he was a rookie, and he came back and blew it up. I'm not saying he's going to have an Odell year, definitely not, but just goes to show that you can start off injured and then come in and really produce. So if you can get Rashad Bateman on your team, and if you're hurting at wide receiver, I think you should definitely look into it, especially with trade deadlines coming up.
That's not bad. You know, we talk about rookies so often. They come into the league and you just expect them to produce right away. People forget that Justin Jefferson was like dropped in leagues. First of all, he was a dart throw in most fantasy leagues last year. And on top of that, he was dropped after the first 2 weeks of the season because he didn't really do much.
Yeah.
Rookies take time. They need to sit and simmer before they explode. We're seeing that now with guys like Chase, guys like Jefferson over the last few years. Bateman could very well follow in the footsteps. So not a bad pick, Jacob.
Yeah,
he's someone
and I got
definitely acquire.
One more who's a running back. And
let's hear it.
People might be excited about him, so he might be hard to get, but I think you can get him in the right deal. And I did not plan this because we have a Jets fan watching, but I'm talking about Michael Carter. If you look at this guy, and if you look at his stats, and this is full PPR, like these are his fantasy points: 3, 10, 4, 10, 14, bye week 16. So he's slowly, everybody has bad weeks, but like if you look at that, that's better than some guys you were planning to depend on this year who have been super just like if you miss Trey Sermon and Michael Carter fell to you, you're stoked. You would much rather have Michael Carter right now. But also, I know Zach Wilson is injured, and I don't know at what point he left the game last week. But, Michael Carter had 9 targets, 8 catches for 67 yards, leading receiving for the Jets last week. And I believe a lot of that was with Mike White, the backup quarterback. And also they traded for Joe Flacco. I'm aware of that. But Joe Flacco has supported pass catching running backs in the past as well. So I just think in general, Michael Carter is edging his way into, he's not going to be your tradition. He's not going to be your traditional run it down your throat first and second down back, but I think he's going to get enough touches to be a very, very valuable fantasy flex. And I think it can only get better from here.
I love it. I think to piggyback on that team doesn't run a lot. They don't run a lot of offensive plays a lot, I don't think, but he's going to get the majority of the carries. So if you combine that with him being the top PPR back, he's fighting with Ty Johnson a little bit, but that's undercover. That is literal undercover. And if you can get him to be your third best running back, you stole him, basically, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me ask you, gentlemen, a question. Michael Carter or someone like Myles Gaskin rest of the season? Who would you rather have?
Oh, my God, that's disgusting.
I would rather have Carter for sure.
Go Carter. Yeah, I don't want Gaskin.
Okay, even with the news that Michael Brown's on IR, he's going to miss the next 3 weeks?
Malcolm Brown.
It's not like they give him the goal line anyways. So,
well, didn't they sign somebody, or they brought players in for the practice squad or whatever?
Do they matter? I don't know if they matter. What do you think? Who are you taking?
Yeah,
I'm taking
it's
Gaskin.
not like Malcolm.
Can we
Brown
book it down? Ooh, let's do it.
I'm going Michael Carter rest of the season.
Yeah, me too.
Michael Carter. So from week 8 on, Myles Gaskin, Michael Carter. You guys ready to book it down?
Easy.
I'll book that down.
Put me down.
Perfect. We gotta book it down.
And of course, we always do full PPR. So, and it doesn't matter. They're both pass catching running backs. So
yes, if healthy, let's see it happen. Which sucks because I had to, because of my negligence as a commissioner, I unfortunately had to gift Myles Gaskin to someone else as compensation, and I just absolutely hated it. I threw up in my mouth when I did it because I'm a Myles Gaskin truther, and I think the talent will show out. I like Michael Carter, but I think that team is atrocious. Sorry, Jeremy. I don't know if the opportunity is always going to be there. So we'll have to see how it pans out for him. But guess what? Myles Gaskin plays for an atrocious team too. So I guess
I'll tell you.
pick
I'll
poison.
tell you two things. You just said the Jets are atrocious. They have a better record than Miami.
They're
So-
both
so-
one. Do the Jets have 2 wins or 1?
None.
I know they beat the
just have
Titans.
one less loss. They didn't get to play a game, so it's okay. But
Oh, they
that's
have a
still a
better
better
winning
record.
percentage, right?
That's still a better record. That's still a better record.
That's very true.
Hey,
the
the
difference
man
between-
himself. We are horrendous.
The difference
When you hear it
between-
from a Jets fan himself, you got to do it. You
the
got to
knows
difference
do it.
what's
between
up.
the outlook of Gaskins and Carter is that you don't know what Gaskins going to do. No one said he's bad, but I know for sure they're going to want to get Michael Carter involved. It's not like they're going to neglect him like they do Gaskin. That's where I'm coming from.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I think that's it for trade targets. Again, we'll talk about this again next week. Most leagues 2 weeks away from the trade deadline, so we'll be sure to touch on some more names next week.
Yeah,
as
we
they
got
come
to
to
get
mind.
Joe on for that podcast for
Oh,
the
I'm sure
trade
Joe will have a
extravaganza.
plethora of players to talk about. So he will definitely be on. Let's move over to injury news. We're going to hit on these names, hit them really quick. Jerry Jeudy being the first. He's expected to play this Sunday, making his comeback. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to talk about him later. So let's keep going. Rob Gronkowski, he's back. All signs point to him playing this Sunday. I can assume most people are just throwing him back into the lineup, right? This guy has been a TD machine before he went away 3 weeks ago. So are you guys confident just plugging him back into your lineup over guys like maybe you have, Ricky Seals-Jones or, Knox is hurt right now. So if someone dropped him, you can go get Gronk. Noah Fant maybe. I mean, these are just guys that come to mind who aren't necessarily that top tier, but you're willing to let him sit a week and put Gronk in. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you have Noah Fant, I'd play Noah over him. If you lost Knox, obviously you throw Gronk in. But if you're streaming wide receivers like Ricky Seals-Jones, you play Gronk without even thinking twice. But of all the guys you named, I play Noah Fant over him for sure.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see. Michael Gallup returns to practice. He's going to look to make his debut since also, I believe, week 1 or week 2. I can't recall. We'll see how that affects guys like Lamb and Amari Cooper. We know that there were times throughout the year so far where Dak has not thrown the ball that much, and people were worried about guys like Cooper and Lamb. But then he also comes out and throws 45 times the next game. So we're going to have to monitor that situation and see how the work flows. But not too worried about it just yet. The big ones, though, Devontae Adams officially ruled out for Thursday Night Football. What a sucky thing to see due to the COVID-19 protocol, like I said. And it looks like Alan Lazard? Alan Lazard will also find himself on the COVID-19
crazy,
list,
but
also unable to play. So you're left with guys like Randall Cobb. MVS is making his return from the IR. Who are you trusting, or are you just more confident in a guy like Aaron Jones? Like, what's your thought process? They're going up against a really sturdy Arizona Cardinals defense too, by the way. So do you guys have any names for me other than Randall Cobb, or who are you confident in? MVS? What do you got?
I think Tanyan had a good week last week, and I don't feel good about Tanyan rest of season, but this week with these guys out, I would fire him up. If you have 2 guys and you decide between them each week, I would fire Tanyan up.
Justin,
I'm not touching MVS with a 10-foot pole. I'm firing up Tanyan, and the only way they stay competitive is if Aaron Jones has a 40-50 point fantasy week. Like literally, he's got a ball
he
out.
Probably will too.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine he's going to get a lot of pass work, and A.J. Dillon's going to get a lot of run work to complement that.
Tanyan or Gronk this week?
Ooh, I'm going Tanyan, honestly.
They play New Orleans. That's a stingy D kind of. I'll go Tanyan.
Fair enough. I think I'll go. I think I'm going to go Tanyan too. Too many weapons depleted out there, so you got to do it.
Exactly.
Speaking of depleted weapons, we'll touch on Rob Gronkowski's teammate, Antonio Brown. It looks like there's no timetable set for his return also, but we have seen that with one game, when Antonio Brown does not play, everyone else gets a lot more love, including Mike Evans, 3 touchdowns last week. Look to continue starting those guys hot, Godwin and Evans, as long as Antonio Brown is sidelined. I'm pretty sure you're starting all 3 of them anyways, week in and week out. You just have to feel more confident about those plays when one of those 3 guys is out. And then the last one, not to mention Zach Wilson. I know the Jets fan is in the building.
We kind of talked about it, yeah.
We kind of talked about it. I just really quick. I know nobody was really super high on guys like Corey Davis and Michael Carter. They did trade for Joe Flacco. Did they trade for Joe Flacco? Yes.
Yeah, they
traded
did.
for Joe Flacco. He's probably not going to start for them this week. Maybe he does. I don't know how that situation is going to work out. Then they have a bye. Then they have a couple of tough matchups. So we'll have to see. But I don't know. I'm staying away from Corey Davis, at least until Joe Flacco is under center. I think he might actually provide a little bit of help to a guy like Corey Davis. And, he hasn't necessarily been bad, but he hasn't been great like a lot of people thought he was when they saw the preseason with him and Zach Wilson. Joe Flacco, just a little more accurate, cares a little less, willing to throw the ball a little bit more. That bodes well for receivers. So Corey Davis is a guy I'll keep my eye on, but definitely not for the next few weeks.
I would actually keep my eye on Jamison Crowder while Joe Flacco is under center.
Jamison Crowder as well.
And that's weird because and I was actually talking about this with Jeremy today, and he was telling me that like they're trying to teach Zach Wilson this complex system, but if they bring Joe Flacco in, they're just going to simplify it and let him just throw down the field like what he's used to. And that could be helpful for fantasy players like Corey Davis and Jamison Crowder. So, yeah, we'll see. And Crowder could be traded before November 2nd, though. That's a good point.
That's true. Oh, man. Well, I guess we can't talk about that now. So I'm not going to bring it up. But good insight, Jacob. And also, it looks like Jeremy said it as well. Crowder might be traded, so we'll have to keep an eye on that situation. Justin needs to mute his mic. But other than that, we're moving on to the waiver wire, folks. Again, most of your waivers have probably already passed. I'm going to sit out on this. I want to hear what you two guys have to say. Who's someone that you think is on the waiver wire that people should keep an eye on? Pick up, stash, pick up, plug and play this week. Only the Ravens and Raiders are on bye, so there are plenty of options out there. But are any of these guys that you are happening to mention worth?
I'll just say real quick. I mean, we've talked about this guy multiple times, Kenneth Gainwell. Before waivers processed, he was rostered in only 21% of Yahoo leagues.
Wow,
and
that's crazy.
Since waiver process, it went up to 54%. Why isn't it at 99%? Because look, I know, the production from the Philadelphia Eagles running backs hasn't been the best, but Miles Sanders got hurt, and this is what I've been waiting for. Not that I want Miles Sanders to get hurt, but I've rostered Kenneth Gainwell in a couple leagues, and one league I have both of them. So best case scenario is one of them becomes the running back, and even if it's just for 1 week, you got to pick this guy up. So if you watching, and even if you're in an 8-team league, pick up Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah, well, luckily for us, we play in some pretty smart leagues. I know that he is taken in all of my leagues, and he was before the trade deadline. And I know I play in most of my leagues with you guys. So, Justin, who's your waiver wire pickup this week? Or someone that people should go look and double check to see if they're still out there?
I originally wanted to say Hunter Renfrow, but we got new news, and that's that they shipped out Mark Ingram to New Orleans, bumping up the boy David Johnson. So I think finally there's one less mouth to feed over there, and I'm talking strictly goal line, maybe a flex on a bye, maybe has a good matchup. I want David Johnson, at least just for that lottery ticket of a running back that can give me something in the second half and protect an injury or two. So David Johnson, go get him. I don't know where he's at now since the news, but he should be readily available because no one wants anybody from Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about that too.
What'd you say?
No, I thought about that too. I was like, where's Philip Lindsay at? Who's going to emerge with Mark Ingram out of there? It could be interesting. We'll see.
Currently 26% rostered. Make that 26.25% because I just picked him up in pick 6.
David Johnson or Philip Lindsay?
David Johnson. Probably nice. Philip Lindsay should be looked at as well.
Philip's at 13%.
And, Tyrod Taylor making his return. Some people are saying that's not necessarily a bad thing for this team. Not saying that you want to start everybody from Houston, but next week is also a plethora of buys coming up. So you might have to be forced your hand to start a guy like that in the Houston backfield.
Yeah, real quick, just back to Gainwell. Miles Sanders didn't practice today, and he's considered week to week. So
he's not playing.
Yeah, he's definitely not playing.
He's not playing.
Really quick, I do want to touch on those in need of a quarterback because a lot of fantasy podcasts, they say, they talk as if nobody can start. Like if there's a 10-team league or a 12-team league, that like the 13th, 14th, 15th guy will never be started. That's not true because people roster multiple quarterbacks, especially in our leagues. In all of our leagues, our buddies, everybody has 2 quarterbacks on their roster. So I'm in a league. Russell Wilson's hurt. Derek Carr's on a bye. I had to hit the waiver wire, and weirdly enough, I'm starting Carson Wentz in that league, and I never thought I would be doing that at this point. But he's been playing really well. He's been feeding Michael Pittman Jr., who's been making him look good, and he's been over 20 fantasy points the last 4 weeks, even hitting 31 fantasy points in week 5 against Baltimore. And I just think that when I'm streaming a quarterback, all I'm trying to do is avoid a 10-point game, a 6-point game. Just give me 20 points and I'll be happy. Sorry, Justin. I know Sam Darnold burned you, but if you're just looking for a guy to give you at least 20 points, I don't mind starting Carson Wentz.
I love it. I love it.
It's not a bad one. And I'm just looking here. We got kind of, we had the bye apocalypse last week, 6 teams on bye. Week 8 doesn't look too bad. Like I said, Raiders and Baltimore. But holy cow, do we just get like 4 straight weeks after that with multiple teams? Week 9, the Lions, which there's, they're bad, but there are fantasy options there, and Swift and Hawkinson. Seahawks, Tampa Bay, and the Washington football team. There's 4 teams right there. Week 10, Chicago Bears, Cincinnati Bengals, Houston Texans, New York Giants. Week 11, the Rams, the Broncos. And then that's only 2. And then, of course, week 12, Arizona Cardinals, Kansas City Chiefs. But, wow, week 9 and 10, a lot of teams. So you're definitely going to have to manage that waiver wire. People always say this time of the year, unless there's a catastrophic injury, things are picked. What's the word, guys? Slim pickings. Slim pickings out there on the waiver wire. Mm-hmm. But you definitely have to be strategic when you maneuver that wasteland of talent.
Absolutely.
So keep an eye on that. We do have a comment down here, and I wanted to run it by you guys really quick.
Yes.
What is that? From
Jermel Brown. Thank you for watching.
Should I trade James Robinson for CD Lamb? That entirely depends on your team, my man. If you can give us a little bit more context. If you feel confident at the running back position because that is such a valuable commodity, I would do it. I would love a guy like CD Lamb on my team. That's my gut reaction, but I want to know who your other running backs are.
If you're asking me straight up, no. I can replace the wide receiver. I can't replace James Robinson. Now, if you told me you had Kamara and Swift and you got lucky, maybe you have an Eli Mitchell, maybe you got like a third guy that like a Chase Edmonds, I would consider it because I'm not needing James Robinson that much. But if he's your RB1 or RB2, I couldn't do that at all.
Yeah,
not straight up. And Gabe, you said it right away. It depends on your team, right? It really just depends. Like, I think they are equal as far as fantasy players go, but it's all about positional needs. And what is more dire? Running back. So that's the only reason. If it's just like if we're, it depends on the type of league, right? But if I was drafting today, I might take CeeDee Lamb before I take James Robinson. But at this point in the season, running backs, we're all desperate for running backs. So it's hard to make that trade.
Definitely hard to make that trade. As far as fantasy points, he says, I have Henderson, Edmonds, Gaskin, and Barkley. I would do it. Who are your wide receivers? I would do it. I view it as virtually, at this point, now that we know that who his running backs are, I view it as fair in my eyes. You're struggling at wide receiver,
Barkley is healthy.
But you're starting Henderson and Edmonds, and I like Gaskin. I'm telling you guys, Malcolm Brown out for the next 3 weeks guaranteed. He's going to get some work there. You wait for Barkley to get healed up. I like it.
If you're really, really hurting at wide receiver, then sure.
We are going to wait to see what he has to say. We'd love to hear who your wide receivers are. That might finalize our decisions. But we're going to press on with the show. Let's get into the thick of it, fellas. Our dark horses of the week. We are in week 8. I was not here last week, so let's review last week's. Jacob Rashad Bateman. We're going to push it, man. 3 for 80. That's a strong showing. That's about
wasn't great, though.
Yeah.
It was like 11
depends on what type
points.
of league you're playing. It wasn't great, but it was a good flex day. And Jacoby Myers versus the Jets, all signs pointed towards hallelujah when you saw the scoreboard, and then you just saw Jacoby Myers get absolutely none of the love. I guess you're just going to have to pick and pray your days with Jakobi Meyers. Let's get into it right now. I'm starting us off. I can't wait to say it, and I'm so proud to say it. Welcome back, Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. I'm telling you right now, anybody who's listening or anybody who will listen, you might be scared to start Jerry Jeudy. And I'm telling you, do not be. Do not be scared to start Jerry Jeudy as he returns to Denver to play for the Denver Broncos. I don't know why I keep talking about just Denver in general. He came off the IR last week. They said it was too soon to fit him in for a Thursday night game. Totally respect that. That also just means, he didn't just come off the IR this Monday and now he's going to get ready to play. No, he was off the IR last week. He's got the practices. He's practicing in full, no limitations. Before he went out in week 1, 6 receptions, 72 yards. This was just in the first half. He was having a monstrous game. Denver has shown us Sutton, he's got it and he doesn't got it. He's a hit and miss type of guy. Tim Patrick, he's got this level of consistency about him, but he doesn't give you that flair, that upside. Jeudy's going to be that guy for your fantasy team. Too many content creators out there right now and other fantasy analysts are saying he's a wide receiver 3. He's a wide receiver 4 this week. Start him there, and that's what you should expect from him. Not at all. I expect him to produce great for your fantasy team this week. Wide receiver 2 numbers. I can see him easily getting 18 to 20 fantasy points. I'm going to go with the low end because I do have we have an agenda to meet here, and I got to beat you guys. So I'm going to say Jerry Jeudy, currently projected on Yahoo, full PPR scoring formats. He's projected to get 13 fantasy points. I can confidently say wide receiver 2 numbers puts him right at about 17.5. So I'm going to go 17.5 on the dot. Jerry Jeudy, welcome back to Denver. Let's go. Justin, don't you dare shake your head at me. What do you got to say?
Hell
the wide
no.
receiver guru himself should know
Hell
what is
no.
coming.
I will tell you, and it's not that I don't like them, but they also found some other weapons too. There's a lot of mouths to feed over there. The running backs are getting more active. The only way he does that is a big catch and touchdown, and that's a dart throw. I don't think he's going to hit that. I think Sutton's still the top dog, but prove me wrong because I always love another wide receiver coming in the mix.
Oh, I wouldn't. Okay, well, you know what? I got to book it down. Who has the better fantasy day? Jerry Jeudy in his return or Cortland Sutton? We getting 2 bucket downs today? Week 8, baby.
All right, I'll go. I'll do that.
We got
Sutton.
a one week one and a season long one, so that's fine.
I got Jerry Jeudy. Jacob, who do you got?
I like Sutton.
Oh man. Okay, so they're playing Washington, and we know Washington's defense is not what we thought it was going to be.
Horrendous.
Man. Wait, who is Teddy Bridgewater the quarterback?
Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback, which is a plus. You want that?
I'm gonna go Jeudy. And Gabe, I'm sorry to break this to you. It's Jeudy. People need to start spelling his name right, please.
Honestly, that was Google's autocorrect on Google Docs. So I blame Google for that. Get it right, Google. Get it right.
But I'm gonna go
You think
Jeudy.
I'm paid to learn how to spell? Not at all. That is my pick, though. Let's move on to Jacob's. Jacob, who is your dark horse week 8?
Yeah, so I don't think this guy is necessarily being benched, but I think he's on the cusp of being benched depending on your league, and that is Darrell Williams of the Cincinnati Chiefs. Now, I picked him up when CEH first got hurt, picked him up in a couple leagues, and I've been starting him in and out of my lineup, depending on what my other needs are. And look, his first week as the full week starter, he had 21 carries, 62 yards, 4 catches, 4 targets, 3 catches, 27 yards. And then he follows that up. He only has an 8-point fantasy game the next week, but he still gets 4 targets, 3 catches, 30 yards, something that we weren't seeing consistently from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But the problem is people are going to be looking at this because people think in their minds week to week with fantasy football. Whatever happens the previous week, that really influences how you feel about a player. And we all do it. I do it. Justin does it. Even though we're so enthralled into this world and we know that a 1 week thing isn't the end all be all, we still live by it. So there might be other managers out there who see, Darrell Williams only got me 8 fantasy points last week against Tennessee. But you got to pay attention. The Chiefs were being blown out by Tennessee. We don't know what's going on there. And the game script was totally against Darrell Williams. And while he's a capable pass catcher, he's not like Kamara or Swift where they're feeding him the ball in the passing game. So I think as long as CEH is out, and I honestly think that when CEH comes back, they're going to have to make some decisions on the play calling, like who do they want carrying the rock, when they have the lead or whatever, when they need somebody to do that. So I think, look, you can fire Darrell Williams up Monday night against the New York Giants. They're not great against the run. Yahoo has them 11th friendliest to the run game. And I think the Chiefs are going to lay it on the Giants. And once Patrick Mahomes is done putting up 40 points, they're going to let Darrell Williams run it out.
I certainly hope they do figure it out, Jacob. I hope they do. You don't get paid. What is it? $1 billion? No, I'm just kidding. But what is it? What do you get paid? $550 million? And look at where you got.
But
them.
it's like a
3-3.
Contract. Yeah,
figure it out.
They'll be fine. No, I'm not worried about the Chiefs though.
Yeah, that's fair. Not too worried about them either. But good pick, man. Darrell Williams. I don't have him. I don't have any shares of him. But if I did, I'd probably be considering it in a flex option. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Let's hope they stampede the Giants and he gets some running action. Great pick. That leaves us with Justin. 2021 Week 8 Dark Horse. Who you got for us today?
I'm going with my boy Chase Claypool over there with Steeler Nation against the Browns. And the reason I'm going for this is because he's due for a breakout. Juju's gone. He's getting decent targets. Hasn't converted really, only one touchdown, and he had a big game in Week 5. They just coming off a bye. But the reason I'm going to say this is because, we knew it. We didn't know it was going to be this good. But Najee's a freaking stud in every facet, and he ate up all the offense Week 6. But they're playing the Browns, and the Browns have been pretty nice against the run, so I don't anticipate Najee going crazy. I'm going to give a little bit more pass work. Claypool's going to be the recipient. Maybe he doesn't finish as good as Deontay, but I'm going to say he finishes as a good, easy, no questions asked flex play. He's put for 13.87 on PPR, 15 plus for Claypool this week without a doubt.
15 plus for Claypool. I'm plugging him into my fantasy lineups, and you should too. Chase Claypool, Marvin Jones Jr. Who do you got this week?
Ooh.
I'm gonna
Chase
Marvin
Claypool.
Jones Jr., Chase Claypool.
Oh, Chase.
I would take Chase as well.
Even though Marvin Jones has been good.
He was good before the bye. He had a couple of
Yeah.
weird games there where he wasn't really doing anything. So I feel like both guys are in that shot in the dark scenario right now. But I think you want to trust a QB who's done it before, even if he can't throw a ball anymore. And that's Ben Roethlisberger. And by correlation, that is Chase Claypool. So I'll take him as well. Well, that does it for the 2021 Dark Horses Week 8. We hope you get your fixins. Take what you want. Take what you don't want. Digest it. Sit with it. Let us know what you think down below. Now it's time to get into those fool's gold players. Maybe they have the juicy matchup. Maybe they're a stud. We're telling you, temper your expectations or fade them completely. I'm going to start off with you, Jacob. Who is your fool's gold player for Week 8?
Yeah, so I want to, with the fool's gold, right? I want to pick guys who normally you'd think you would be starting. And I'm going to go with Antonio Gibson of the Washington football team. And I almost chose him last week because same situation. He's been dealing with a shin injury all year. And what happens is he's limited in practice. And I keep thinking they're going to sit him. So I thought they were going to sit him last week, but they play him. So he's active and you feel like you have to start him. And he's definitely a candidate for me for the trick earlier instead of Sam Darnold because I took Gibson over Najee Harris in the league and that has killed me all year. So I just think, look, we all had so much excitement for Gibson and you assume that he's a set it and forget it guy. But I just think, I don't know what's up with the Washington football team right now, but even if even if he plays, I don't trust him. They played Green Bay last week, who's relatively friendly to running backs, and he didn't do much. They're playing Denver this week, who's a little bit tougher. And I just think that game is going to be, I just think it's going to be a slow game. and I just don't have a feeling that Gibson is going to be involved. So if he plays, and look, I'm putting my money where my mouth is in our pick six league, our six keeper league. This is perfect. I just talked about Darrell Williams. I'm starting Darrell Williams in my flex over Antonio Gibson. Even if they say
Ooh.
Antonio Gibson is active, I'm telling you, I can't do it. Look at what he's doing. He put up 6 fantasy points last week. It's gross, and I'm avoiding it. Look, it's not that I don't prefer Darrell rest of season to Gibson, but this week, because he's still dealing with that shin injury, I'm going Darrell over Gibson this week.
Wow. I mean, last week I would have said something along the lines of, I don't know how Gibson's injury outlook is going to be this week. He left that game early 2 weeks ago. Last week, one of my dilemmas was, should I start McKissic over Gibson, even if he is healthy, on the chance that he re-aggravates that injury? And that's what I was dealing with. I would probably toy with the same idea this week, but McKissic didn't really do much the last 2 weeks. So then you throw another guy in there from another team like Darrell Williams, and it makes me feel ill. And I think it's just because of name value, right? Like, Gibson is the guy. He's supposed to be the guy. They just can't figure out that run game right now. And Heineke just is giving the ball away with, not even interceptions, fumbling, all these different things. So they're just not getting a lot of time with the ball. That's the real thing.
That's a good point.
By golly, that's an interesting decision. I don't want to book it down territory because we already got 2 book it downs today.
Yeah, we're good. But I
gotta wait for one.
That's crazy to say. We never thought I'd be saying that this season at all, but it's the truth.
Yeah. Back to really quick. I want to touch on it as we're transitioning here. That way Jacob knows when to cut it. Jermel Brown ended up coming back saying Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Emmanuel Sanders, and DJ Moore are his wide receivers. Boy, I don't know what kind of league you play in, but that's a studly team with running backs and wide receivers. After some careful consideration, Jacob and Justin both agree. Probably just keep your guys. James Robinson is the more valuable player. I said you're splitting hairs probably, but after thinking it through a little bit more, as I like to do with trades, don't just be impulsive.
It's still splitting hairs, but I lean Robinson based on his team.
And solely on the fact for me that I do believe Keenan Allen is going to step it up second half of the season. And he will be good for your fantasy team down the stretch. So that's what
Can we address Gio's comment or question here? I think that's a very interesting question.
How does Khalil Herbert's impressive play impact Chicago's backfield, Damian Williams and Montgomery, rest of season and beyond? Well, if we're talking gut reactions, I'm not too worried about it in Dynasty. If we're talking about it right now, Montgomery doesn't come back till week 10. I definitely think this impacts Damian Williams more so than it does David Montgomery. I believe do they play this week, then they have a bye, then they have their week 10 matchup, and that's when David Montgomery is expected to come back. As far as Khalil Herbert, man, who has put up 100 yards on the Tampa Bay defense? Only one other player, and you have to go all the way back to last year. That's Dalvin Cook. With that being said, Herbert definitely looking to see him take about, I wouldn't even call it a 50-50 timeshare between him and Damian Williams. I would call it probably a 60-40 between him and Damian, with Herbert getting that workload. I do like Khalil Herbert. I think he's got young and he's got a lot of juice, but that's only 1 week, then the bye. I have no idea what to expect once Montgomery comes back. I know that you can probably fade Damian Williams completely, but Khalil Herbert and Montgomery might fall into a timeshare that we don't really want a part of. What do you guys think?
This question caught my eye because it's something that I'm wondering as well. I have a few shares of Montgomery and Khalil Herbert, and I don't know what's going to happen, but this is what I'd guess is that it's kind of what you said, Gabe, is Khalil Herbert's going to be the starter while Montgomery's out with Damian Williams as the backup. And then I think, Matt Nagy, I think he's the type of guy who's going to say, Montgomery is our starter, and that's who he is because that's the guy. He's the veteran. He's been there for a few years, and he's been playing well the past couple of years. So I don't think if Montgomery's fully healthy and comes back, then I think he will be the starter. But until then, enjoy Khalil Herbert while you have him.
Fair enough. I like it. I like it a lot. See you later, Jacob. See you later, Gio. Thanks for the question. Let's move on. Let's transition to our other 2 Fool's Gold players this week. I'm going to just go right now. I'm going to make mine really quick. That's at the QB position, and that's Tunga Tuivasa-Vailoa. Listen, he's had a couple of good games, put them together the last 2 weeks, 4 touchdowns last week against the Atlanta Falcons. I don't expect that to happen against the top earning fantasy defense in terms of fantasy production. That's the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. So be careful, look out. Don't expect high things from Tua Tagovailoa. And I got to be honest with you guys. With all this trade deadline hype and everything that's surrounding Miami right now, you got to have a lot of confidence to just keep on pushing through. And I admire what Tua has been doing these last few weeks. He's been playing great fantasy football. He's been playing good football for the NFL as well. But when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of things, he's not going to be able to do that against the stingy Buffalo Bills defense. So please, he has been a streaming candidate the last 2 weeks. You're going to look to keep him on your bench come week 8. That's my 2021 week 8 Fool's Gold player. Justin, we're going to hear from you first. Then we'll answer a couple of more questions that we got coming in, okay?
All right. My sit of the week, we talked about him early. You, Jacob, talked about the matchup being a Kansas City massacre, and I'm going to bench Saquon. I don't want him coming back from an injury. I'm not sure if he's actually going to play. This is under the pretense he plays. If you have to start him, don't expect a big game out of him, because I have a feeling that Kansas City is mad. They're going to pick on this team, and they're going to abuse him, drop 50. It's going to be a bad running game for Saquon.
Fair enough. Have we confirmed if he is playing, though?
No, it's still up in there.
Still up in the air. Well, then you're going to look to – fortunately, you can't find Justin on Twitter, but you can find him on Pigeon. So look for his Pigeon updates as he pivots with his
Is that a new social media thing? It's called
Pigeon. No, back in
I know
the day.
I know he's a literal pigeon carrying him
Send me
the
that
note.
All right,
Yeah.
back.
So,
what are the owls called
guys,
in Harry Potter? They're like
there are 5 people listening right now. Justin will send pigeons to all of you if he updates his he's going to train them and everything in a week's time. No, in 3 days' time. And he's going to send them out to you.
You know
guys.
what's funny? It
You know,
sounds like it
that's
could
his
be
full skill
another social media service, but it's like blocked off from like no one can hack it and only Justin posts on it. It's like pigeon.
That's good, man. All right. Well, we got a little bit of time left here. Let's pull up some more questions. This one from NS Savvy. A lot of stuff to pack here. Looks like he's got Kyler Murray, Dalvin Cook, Edmonds, Javonte. I'm going to fast forward to the bottom here. He says, do you think Javonte Williams and Chase Edmonds is enough for your RB2, or do you need to upgrade? I think you're just fine. A.J. Brown's a solid wide receiver 1. He's going to be that explosive wide receiver 1. Waddle and Sanders are guys that are going to get you by. You hope AB can come back. There's not really too much to do there. Justin, I know you're an Edmonds truther like myself. What do you think? Chase and Javonte get him through, crack the playoffs?
No, if I was him, I'd go to the guy who owns Connor. Hope he doesn't have a good tight end. Give him Gesicki or Knox. Give him Chase and give him Waddle or AB, and get yourself a RB2 or low-end RB1.
So that's obviously a package deal, because you're not going to give up 4 players for one.
Yeah, no, you get stuff on the back end, but that's all just fluff, because I'd also, instead of Waddle, I'd do Tony, because the hype on him is crazy. So my goal for you, I would just go to the guy that owns someone like James Robinson and ask him for James Robinson and give him Edmonds plus Tony or something like that. I would try to hold Javonte, because he is a candidate for workhorse second half of the year if they shut Melvin down. So I would stand pat if you can't find a trade like that, but I wouldn't oversell your position, because you have a good team.
Yeah, fair enough. Jacob, any thoughts?
I pretty much agree. I wouldn't be too worried about it. I wouldn't be desperate to make a trade, because I do think Javonte Williams, is emerging and will continue to emerge. So you feel pretty good about that. And, Edmonds has a lot of potential. So you're not dying for another running back, but you do have some trade assets, honestly. If Antonio Brown comes back, your wide receivers are looking really, really good. So I wouldn't mind a trade, but you seem like you got a solid roster.
Fair enough. Well, NS Savvy, hope we helped you out there. Thanks for the question, man. Let's look at someone else. Lucas Sable. The smile, dude. The Halloween smile. Your profile picture really scares me. But I know you're a nice guy, Lucas, and thanks for listening to the show. Would you trade Hill, I'm guessing Tyreek Hill, and Sutton for Cooper Cup? I would not do that.
It's so funny that this is even coming up. I was listening to another podcast and they were like saying, well, that face is creeping me out. But they were saying that like you wouldn't trade, like people would try to trade Cup for Hill right now. And I'm like, first of all, that's just a lateral move. Why would you do that? But also it's like, that's crazy to me. You have to give something as valuable as Courtland Sutton on top of Hill to get Cup. Man, I wouldn't do it if I had Hill and Sutton, honestly. No way.
Yeah, when I first read that trade, I thought he was saying trade Tyreek Hill for Sutton and Cup.
Yeah.
There, I thought it was like a 2-for-1 deal, and I might have considered it.
I wouldn't do that either.
Trading Hill and Sutton for Cup? Nah, I wouldn't do that.
Just stand pat. Look,
wait, hold on. The wide receiver guru himself.
Yeah, let's go, Justin.
There's a couple caveats to this. You have to understand: are the Chiefs going to get back to winning? Then don't do it. Cup, I've never seen in my entire life of fantasy. He has not got a game below 10 targets. That's like absurd. Like I've never seen that before. Not to mention he's a yard after catch guy. I believe it's a fantasy football dream. He has a lot of touchdowns, 9 touchdowns, I think. I do this trade because I don't like Sutton because Judy's coming back. I do this trade especially like sell him, say, listen, dude, I'm giving you 2 top 20 wide receivers. Give me something on the back. Get yourself a low-key Brandon Cooks who's about to get traded to the Packers. But I honestly don't have a problem doing this because Cup is by far and away wide receiver 1. Tyreek Hill.
Look, man, dude. I get it. 9 touchdowns. That's great and all. But that can't – I guess it's more relative to happen throughout an entire season than it is to happen back-to-back seasons. So if you're just expecting him to continue to catch touchdowns, then I understand that. But, I mean, Hill is going to win you weeks, man. Hill will win you weeks. And you got to think, having Sutton – I mean, we have a book it down for this week, Jerry, Jeudy, and Sutton. You picked Sutton over Jeudy.
But that's not to mean either of them will be great rest of the season. They're just a lot of mouths to feed.
But someone's going to take volume there and targets. And I think
everybody
Jeudy returning helps Sutton.
I don't. But here's what I'm saying. On the Tyreek
Hill.
Not
that much because I like Jeudy more. But yeah, go ahead.
On the Tyreek Hill, he wins you weeks, but he also doesn't win you weeks because he's wide receiver 2 right now, but he has 2 games, 52-42. And outside of that, 5 points, 9 points, 14, 22, 12. He's a great wide receiver. But if I can get a solid 25 plus every week at a Cooper Cup, I'll take that rather than a 50 and then dud, and then a 50, dud. That doesn't win you championships. That just wins you random weeks. You know what I mean? Cooper is insane right now. I don't see it cooling down.
But that's the thing, though. I mean, Tyreek Hill has always been that way. He's always been that way. He's always been a boomer bust wide receiver 1, just like A.J. Brown was last year. I mean, the more you talk, Justin, the more I buy into the wide receiver guru himself. I like what you're saying. I like what you're thinking. Ultimately, though, I still think I want Hill and Sutton.
I'm not in the business.
I think Mahomes figures it out.
I'm not in the business of doubting Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. I would never, at this point, like Tyreek Hill would have to do a lot to catch up to Cup. So I would never like take a book it down on like who's going to finish at the top. Like Hill's going to beat Cup by the end of the season. No way. But I just think he's going to be close by the end. And maybe Cooper Cup is wide receiver 1 in fantasy. Tyreek Hill's probably going to be wide receiver 5. And it's like, I'm not willing to give Sutton as well to move up those 3 extra spots in the end.
This has been Cooper Kupp's. Yeah, I totally get it, Jacob. This has been Cooper Kupp's most consistent season thus far.
Well, he's on track to break all the records, like Calvin Johnson record, Randy Moss record. It's crazy.
He's also finally not playing with Jared Goff. So
yeah, well, we also have to look at. Let's look at some of the teams he's played. He's played against Indiana, crappy. He played against Chicago, not as good as they have been. Tampa Bay, their run defense is amazing. Their pass defense is atrocious. He played against Arizona, 5 for 64. That's by far the best defense he's played so far. Seattle, New York, and Detroit, he ate them all up because they're all poor. I don't even know what the rest of his schedule. Oh yeah, Houston, he's probably going to run through them. Tennessee, he's going to run through them. Holy crap, maybe you should keep Kupp. The more you look at his schedule, it's looking pretty juicy. We'll see how San Francisco fares. But yeah, man, that's a tough decision. I'd probably go Hill and Sutton still, just so you know. But anyways, nonetheless, thank you, Lucas Sabal, for your question.
We got another
Change
one.
your face again. Let's look at Luke Aquinaldo. Yeah, that's right. I said it
that
right.
sounds right.
Yeah, I'm Mexican. You guys didn't know that? I don't even know if that's a Spanish name. But anyways, thanks for listening, Luke. We appreciate you, man. Gibson for Lockett. Who wins? Well, I'll tell you right now, my gut reaction is Gibson. I know you just talked about him. I know he's a full goal player this week. You can't trust Lockett as long as Geno Smith plays. I know that they're expecting Wilson back in week 10, and I know they have a bye coming up. So you really only have to depend on Lockett for one game. But even then, before Lockett was back, before Wilson went out, I should say, Lockett only had those 2 games, and those 2 games put him in the stratosphere, just like we were talking about with Tyreek Hill. Gibson, you got to think, other than last week, he's been pretty consistent. It's a matter of what you need, Luke, and what you need is a solid RB2, and that's what Gibson gives you. Hopefully your wide receivers are good. That's my opinion. Justin, what do you got to say?
I wrote to him. I said, sadly, no one wins, but I side on the side of Gibson just because halfback over a random wide receiver at this point with bad QB.
Yeah, fair enough.
If Wilson never got hurt and Lockett, had a 20-point game last week, maybe it's a different story. But I got to go Gibson.
Yeah. Back to you, Lucas. He said it himself, man. I mean, go with your gut, man. I mean, we're here to provide advice, to just kind of talk it out. We're not like the experts like everyone else, claims to be. Fantasy football, half luck, half strategic. And you pretty much answered your own question, dude. Hill has won me weeks, but he has definitely lost me weeks. I wanted to make the trade for consistency from Kupp. If you need consistency on your team, like Justin said, he's the guy for you. Go out and do it, man. I don't think it's
if you want to do
like
do it.
Yeah, it's not an unfair trade by any ways. I just prefer one side or the other, but it's completely fair in my eyes. And I think either side is going to have a good outcome. So yeah, if you need to do it, man. If you need that consistency, do it. Kupp is a great player, and he's been the most consistent player by far this season.
The fact that we're debating means that that's crazy that trade would get accepted and pushed. The Hills and
Oh, I think it would get pushed. It's fair.
I'm saying it would. That's crazy. Like, we would have never have said that even
maybe
4 or 5 weeks
or
ago.
Like that. Yeah. I think we're gonna end it back on Luke. I think he said send Emmanuel Sanders for Cooks. Will they bite? I don't think so, man. Cooks is pretty reliable when you talk about consistency, and he plays for a bad team, and he also might get traded. I mean,
Sanders has been killing it though.
He's been moderately consistent.
I mean, he's been
Cooks has been
better than Cooks the past 4 weeks. So
the past 4 weeks,
you're missing it though. Give me Cooks with Tyrod.
That's true. That's a good point. I lean Cooks. So, but to answer your question, I think they would bite. To answer your question, because if you look at
me, I would not. But yeah, go ahead.
I think
it's worth a shot. You have nothing to lose. Yeah.
I mean, Cooks is obviously. Honestly, I want Cooks, and I know you said
Cooks
he's had better
stays
weeks.
In Houston, it could go either way because Emmanuel Sanders is playing with Josh Allen, and if he keeps that up, it can go either way. So I think that's I would prefer Cooks, but I don't think that's an unfair trade. Is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Thanks for your comment, Luke. And that just about wraps it up. 10 minutes over, fellas. 10 minutes over. We got to figure this out. Stop sending us your questions. We need to end shows on time.
Love it.
Just kidding. We thank you so much, everyone who wrote in today. We truly do appreciate you. And if you're looking to find us elsewhere, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, which you're watching now, and Instagram at First Round Fantasy. We love to interact with you there as well. Check out the merch, man. Check out the merch. And also check out the links below for any descriptions. You can get our podcast, anywhere you get your podcast. So just look us up wherever you listen. You'll find us. And if you haven't already, feel free to like and subscribe. You are guaranteed to almost maybe win your fantasy matchup this week. We promise you that. And with that being said, happy Halloween. Be safe and enjoy fantasy football on Sunday, folks. Peace. Bye.